Hello and welcome. In this video, I'll show you how you can build a property manager application, at least a simple one, that can help you manage your real estate. In this application, you have a dashboard showing metrics. You can view and add properties, units, tenants, leases, and maintenance requests to keep track of your properties. I hope you'll learn something from the video and let me know if I should do another one with another data source. And remember to like and subscribe to stay updated on more content. Let's get right into it. So we're going to build this property manager application. And my idea is that it will be some type of UI interface on the computer where we can view our properties, add a new property, view the tenants, the lease contracts, and we will have some sort of a dashboard. And then also sort of a system for maintenance like tickets and that kind of stuff. So this is sort of an idea to a UI interface, and it will not have all of these functions, so to speak, but I've tried to design at least the database that I'm thinking of that needs to support this kind of UI or the data that I need to store about the properties. So this will be our main tables, and I know we can fill a lot more details in depending on how big we want the system to be. But I would like to start out with some properties, like a table that can hold my properties, and then a table for units, so one property can have several units. Then also an owner table for the properties, a table for maintenance requests, some for them, a table for the lease contracts, and then also for payments, and lastly a table for tenants. So the idea is this sort of database model should support this type of application. Let's go to the Power App, and to start off, let's build a solution, and it should be an unmanaged solution here. I'll create a new solution. Now we have an empty solution, so let's start by creating the property table. So I'll add a new table. And I like to use the advanced properties because that's sort of the old method. I'm sort of used to that. So the first one is going to be property. And this will just be a standard table. The recordship will be user team. We will just keep this as it is for now, just to keep things simple. When we're building this inside Dataverse, it already pre-populates the table with some columns. So these are sort of the standard columns, so let's keep them. So inside the properties, we have the property ID column that corresponds to our property column in here. That will be a unique ID. Then we will have a name to sort of name the property, of course, like Eastside Lake or Lakewood Society or something like that. Then we need an address column. So let's try to do that. So new column. The address. So choose single line of text, just plain text. And then again here, there's some different options, just text, symbol behavior. I will say this one is required. We don't create a property without an address. Let's make it searchable. I think for the address, let's just increase it a bit. And just Save. Now we have the address. Then we need the city. Single line of text again, simple symbol. Business required. And state. It's the same. And zip code. Again, the zip code can be in different formats, so just let's keep it as a text for this purpose. So the type of property, let's view my notes about what that could be. So for example, we can have an apartment, a house, townhouse, office building, that kind of stuff. So that would be the different types of properties we can have. So let's create a choice column for that. And I will make it a choice column. And we'll say required. And then sync globally. So that just means that we can create sort of a table other tables can use, or we will just create a local table for this particular type. So depending on your needs, you can go in the different directions, but I think for now, I'll just create a local for this particular case. So let's give it some examples. And the default choice, let's leave it at none. So we actually have to choose one. Alrighty, let's just hide this for a moment. And number of units, that could be how many units there is within inside a particular property. And that will be a number, a whole number. There's no format, it's just symbol. And it's also required, and save it. So that would be almost all of the properties, or you can say columns, for this particular table. Then we have the last one, which is the owner ID. So for that column, we actually need to create another table we can link or create a connection between, or relationship as we call it in this database design. So a relationship between owner ID and owner ID here. So one-to-one, I call it. So to make it more efficient, I will just create a connection directly to the user table. So in our case, it's just the user table in Dataverse. There is this related table called user. If you scroll down, user. So we will have an owner, and that will be related to the user table. So we can choose an owner from the user table. We could also create a separate table called owners, but in this case, just for simplicity, I'll just create a link to the user table. All right, and I actually think I forgot to make this one required. Like that. So now we have actually created the first table that's ready. So let's move on to the units table. So this will be the table containing the units inside each property, so to speak. So a property a property can have one or more units. So you can already see here, it has actually established 2 tables inside our property solution. So let's create a third one. That will be units. We don't want to enable any attachments. So the primary column here is actually interesting because as you can see here, we just have a unit ID, property, and then a unit number. So I think in our case, let's give it a name. I'm just thinking here that if we look at this one, the unit number could be some sort of a quickly identifier to locate the different units within the property. So we could create some kind of a calculation. But I think for simplicity's sake, we will just do a non-calculated one and then just call unit number. Yeah, so that's the primary column here. And then we need to create a relationship to the property table. So that will be a lookup between these two. So actually the unit can have one or more properties, or should have one or more properties. No, sorry, got the wrong way around. So a property can have one or more units connected to it, and a unit can only have one, belong to one property. So from here, we will create a new column. And let's make it a lookup. Related table. That should be the property table. We have it here. I'll just call it property. And this one is required. Moving on. So unit ID, property ID, unit number. Then we can have the floor, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, rent amount. So let's create these ones. And then lastly, we have the rent amount. So I'll create that. That will be a number, and let's make that a decimal. Let's leave it at that, and that is business required, so we know how much it costs to rent this specific unit. Good. Now we have the free table here, so we should actually be able to create a property with some units inside. Let's move on to the tenants table, because the tenant table, it's quite important for the other tables here, because there is a lookup from these tables to the tenant table. So let's go ahead and create the tenants. And again, let's go back to tables. Now we can see we have property and unit here. So a new table, choose this one as well. And tenant. I think we will just keep it as this. All right, so right now we have sort of the name here. And of course I can't rename it, but that will be our first name. And then let's give that column a last name as display name. Single line of text. And it's business required. Let's create that one. First name, last name. And of course the tenant ID, that will just be this column, the tenant column. Then we will have a phone number. So new column. And I think for this particular case, we can take this and I'll just do it like this: phone number, symbol, business required, so we can contact our tenants. And email, of course. There's, sorry, I just forgot. There's actually one for phone number here. So for email, I will just create this one. That will also be required. Then let's go ahead and correct our email column, or sorry, our number column, and we can actually not change this one. So we will delete it. And let's go ahead and create a new column for this one, and that will be phone number. And as you can see here, phone number, simple behavior. Let's make it required. And let's go ahead and save it. Right, so now we have email and we have phone number. The last thing is date of birth. So let's go ahead and create that. That will be date only. And business recommended also. Or let's take it as a business recommended. I'll save it. There we go. Alrighty, so now we actually have this table as well. So now we have 4 tables for a whole model. And let's go ahead and create the maintenance request table. So this table will handle all the requests for maintenance that our tenants will report to us. So we sort of can keep track of that. Let's go back and create another table. It's called maintenance request. And as you can see here, we have request ID, unit ID, tenant ID, request date, description, status. So for this primary column, I will just say it's title instead. All right, great. And when we're in here, we have the title, we have the ID column, the maintenance request. Then we need a lookup to the unit ID. So let's go ahead and create that. And that will be a data type lookup. And that is business required when we're creating that. And then it's to our unit table. And let's just name this unit. Good, now we have the unit. Then we need to have a lookup to the tenant ID so we can connect those. You may ask, why don't we? We can actually go and see the tenants through the unit, the lease, and the tenants, but I think it's easier for us just to have the tenant ID directly in this table. So let's go ahead and create a lookup to the tenant table. So we will call this tenant lookup. Business required, of course, related table. Let's go ahead and find the tenant table. And the request state, let's just say for this sake, that will just be the date of creation. So actually I already have that column, so create it on. Then I need a column for a description. So let's create a column. That will be text column, multi-line of text, plain text. So let's choose this. And now you can see it's 2000 here. Let's save it again. So description, then let's have a status. And as you can see over here, I sort of have specified which kind of status we can have. Go ahead and create a new column. And let's make that a choice column. So we could do this several ways again with this global choice. We could have created like one specific column called status and then created a global table for that and tried to put all status within this particular box. But we might have some status for maintenance, some other names for them, and then, for example, lease contracts could have another status for particular cases. So on another naming convention. So I will just keep this as a local table as well. It's not possible to do multiple choices. It doesn't make sense. It's business required to have a status, and the status options will be pending, in progress, and the default will be pending when we create a new request. So yeah. Lastly, we will have the completion date. I will fill that in as a date column. So date time. And that will be business week. Oh, that will be optional because we can't really fill that out when we create it. So that is just a thing we update when we are done. Awesome. So if you go back, we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables. So next up is the lease table and the payments table. So I think I will leave out payments for now and just focus on the lease table. And then after we have created the lease table, let's go ahead and try to build a UI interface. So in this case, we don't really have any sort of name for the lease. We just have the IDs or the lookups to the different tables or relationships. Then we have start, end date, monthly rent, security deposits, and lease status. So I will just go in and just say optional because we don't need to really fill that one out. So the lease ID, we already have that as the lease column. Then we will do the lookup columns to the tenant ID and the unit ID. Cool. Now we have the tenant and the unit ID. Then we should have a start date and an end date. Then use date time, so we are sure about the time which we need to hand over the keys and which time they need to deliver the keys, so to speak. Okay, that was start date, end date. Then we have the monthly rent. So that is our agreement between the tenant and us. So we can see the units here. That will be the approximate amount or the expected amount we need to that we would like to rent it for. But this is the actual contract we have. The monthly rent. So let's go ahead and create that. Let's create the security deposit. And lastly, the lease status. So we can have a couple of options here, like active, pending, terminated, expired, renewed, holdover. So let's create a new column for that, and that will be a choice column. Symbol that is required. Lease status. And again, no, it's not multiple choice. Let's go ahead and say active, pending, and our default choice will be pending because that's sort of we create the contract, the lease contract, and then we are pending on maybe a signing or something like that. That makes the 6 tables that we have in our model here. So I'll leave out the payments for now, but that could be added on. You can sort of follow the idea here, how to do that. Next up will be to start creating the interface, and you can create the interface as a Canvas app on top of this Dataverse table, and you can create it as a model-driven app. Let's try to explore both of them to get the idea of how to work with the tables. Let's build the Canvas app as a start. So I'll choose a Canvas app and I'll name it something simple as that. And I'll just build it for a tablet. All right, so here we have a blank screen in our app, and there's different ways we can sort of build this. I will just make something that we quickly can get up and running, and then we can sort of optimize afterwards. So ideally, I will build this as a component I can utilize on the different screens we will have. The same with the header. But in this example, I will just build this as regular boxes. Good. So here we have a container, and this one shouldn't have any rounded corners. So let's do it like that, and we shouldn't have any drop shadow, and then it needs a color. It's like in this, I think this range, maybe a bit darker, like that. make it less obvious. So here we sort of have the first box to put things in. And I guess in the top here we have some sort of an icon. So let's put that one in. So we have two icons in our container here, and let's just rename the things. And let's prepare some colors for our icons. So in this particular case, let's just check. We have the app's theme. So we can go into the theme of the app. Let's go to this one, themes, choose the green theme of the app. And what did we do here? Should be none. Let's go with the lighter 30. Okay, great. I'll just rename that. And let's create sort of the menu over here where we have the dashboard properties, tenants, etc. And I think that will sort of correspond to some of the things we have here in our model. So I will prepare a menu, so to speak, and I'll do that in the formula. So here we have built the menu, or the content of the menu, let's call it war left menu. Good, because then that's ready to populate our table, or in this case, our gallery. And this will be a vertical gallery. In our items of this gallery, put our var left menu. And we can just delete some of the stuff we have here. We don't need. Yeah, basically just start from scratch. And I'll put in a icon. So the icon should be this item dot icon. All right, so I realized I made a mistake. I'm used to working with the classic icons, and the icon I just put in is the new one that's in preview, so they don't have the same amount of icons. So what you can do here is go down to the classic icons and just pull one of these icons in and go to the icon, say this item dot icon. So here we have the new icon. And what do we have here in our theme color? So if you go to the color and let's see here, lighter. What is the primary? Yeah, we could do white colors. That can definitely, no, actually let's keep the white colors for the text, and then let's make this one a grayish color, like this dim gray color thing. And let's keep it that size. And then let's put in a text box. Whoops, that's the wrong place. Let's try again in our gallery. Mark this one and put in the text box. And let's choose the color. Font color it's called now. Primary foreground. All right, let's go and let's say we want to center the text. All right. And that's pretty okay. Maybe a bit smaller. We could do 13. And let's give it a bit more space for this maintenance thing. A little bit more out. Are we able to say that this one... I'll just move it. There is some things you can do to make sure it stays center. Okay, cool. So now we sort of have a menu over here. Great. So, and of course the, let's say default selected. Or selected color. What can we do here? Okay, cool. Let's try to make sort of the header on the top here. The way I'll do this is that I will insert a container, put it in the top. I would say to the left here, we don't have any particular corners, so let's just keep it like this for now. I think that's fair enough. And then maybe a regular jobs shadow, we get this nice effect and it stands out. This one is a bit white, so that's fine. And maybe the background could be a sort of also a white-ish color, but maybe a little more to the base side. What can we do here? Let's figure it out. Maybe like that, and then our container up here. Let's make it white. So we have a bit of a contrast here. I think that's great. And of course, in the ideal world, I would make this as a component, so I can just import it, because now I have to copy paste it into each new page I'm going to make for these different options we have in our menu. But for now, I'll just create it as a simple container and not as a component. Or I want to define it as a component. I will not define it like that. All right, in this one, I think we have some sort of a image. Let's put that one in. Let's leave it here and hide it 68. So let's make that 68. And then we sort of need a border radius 50. So we have a round image. Maybe a bit smaller, I think. There's no need to make it huge. 45, I think it's a good size. The app is not really responsive right now. I mean, there is options to do that in Power Apps, but for now we'll just put something together that sort of solve our main purpose, which is to keep track of our properties and leases and tenant. So here we go. Sample image, and that should be the user dot image. There we go. And then let's have a text. What do we do here? We have one for the name. So you can use the user for that. And I think this account is called something with Andy here. And let's make that bold, semi-bold. I'll just copy that. And they have the title. In the example, we could do that, but not with this one. So if we had to do that, we need to use the Office 365 connectors, because then we can get the job title of the user. So I will leave that one out and just have the name here. I think the other thing that is important is I will just clean up the names here quickly. And then we can have this text box for sort of the title on the page we are on. So yeah, now I'll have just set my title to be the specific page I'm on. And the reason I can do that is that I will create a page simply for each of these ones. So I can just refer to the parent of the menu and then the name. So in this case, dashboard, because I renamed it to that. Alrighty. And I think for the dashboard, we can create some sort of graphs or statistics. I'll leave that one for another session, but for now, just drop in some containers on this page. As you can see, some containers to act as placeholders for the different graphs we can have. So I think that's it for the dashboard side for now. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's create the screen for the properties. So to do this, I will just do a duplicate of this dashboard screen, because that has the menu and it has the dashboard as well, this navigation. So I'll duplicate the screen. There we go. We have all the great things here. So I'll just delete this, and then keep this one, because I will sort of do my things on the screen. All right, let's rename this one. So this will be my screen for properties. And then right now, this navigation is not working. So let's fix that. I'll go to the named formula here, and then I will update my table to hold the different screen values. So dashboard and properties, I will save these ones for later. I'll jump back and go to dashboard first of all, and then on this one. Navigate this item.screen, and I'll have no transition. Copy that. And then do the same for our property. So this should in theory make the navigation work. So let's test it. We'll move to dashboard and then move to properties. So you can see there's a bit of a lag and load on, or lag or load on the navigation. That's due to the named formula part. So instead we could move the build of the table to the app on start. So we load the menu the moment that we run the app, and then it's preloaded. So that is just for your information if you're wondering why it just loads. But you can move it to on start instead. Great. So now we have the property page, and in here I will sort of insert my gallery so we can view the properties we have, and then I will add a new button to create new properties. So inside my container, I would like to create this button. And to do that, I will first create a container more, because this container will sort of provide me a nice drop shadow effect. And I will make this one 65, and then 65 as well. And then semi-bold. Oh, let's take the bold drop shadow. And inside this one, I will add a button. And this button will be 65 and 65. And then Y position will be 0. And let's give it a border radius of 50. And then the container above also need a border radius of 50. So you see now we have this nice small button. And let's just change the icon to be this button, and let's only have the icon. Now we have this sort of small add button that we can utilize to create our properties or enable the property creation window. So now we have this sort of cool little thing, and I will just keep the naming as this. Of course, I'll try. You should try to follow some sort of a naming convention, but I'll just keep this for now because it will take too long just to update everything. So to create a new property, we could either go to a new creation screen, but I think in this case, I will just prefer like a pop-up modal that pops up when I click on the create button. So we need to create some kind of an overlay, gray overlay on the screen, and then the pop-up modal where I have the ability to create new properties. So let's try to do that. I will first insert a sort of a rectangle that takes out the whole screen. And this is a very simple approach to handle sort of a modal. So I will go to the fill color and then say RGBA. So you can see we created sort of an overlay here, maybe a bit less. Sorry, like that. A bit brighter. So that's sort of the overlay that will make us unable to click on the different buttons when we have our creation process of a new property. So for a moment, I will just change this to false. And then on this button here, I will do on the unselect, I will sort of make a variable that can help us hide or show this overlay. So update context, LOC for local variable, show creation model. And sorry, it's called update context. We need to have this one inside such a thing, and this is actually the syntax. It's been a while since I've done this, but this is the syntax. And then this variable, local variable, we can then use to show and hide this one. So this one will depend on the LLC show creation model. So if I click this one, it will pop up. Now we are ready to start create the form. So to do that, I will add a container. And I'll mark it again, move it in here a bit more to the side, like that. Let's provide a fill color for this one. I think we have something in the theme like that. And what more do we need? We need another container inside this container to sort of messy sometimes. Up here, let's stretch it a bit. And this one will sort of contain just that text saying create new property, or not create, maybe just add new property. Let's make it more of a headline, 25, and semi-bold. So we have this one, a new property, and we need something that can close down this modal box as well. So if we change our mind and don't want to create one, let's add a button. So again, these new controls or modern themes is actually new to me. So I don't know if we actually have an icon in here that sort of represents dismiss. We have that. I can only. That's great. Wonderful. So for this one, what do we need here? We need to kind of make it red, I think, to stick out. So if I go in here and take this one, that one is better. Like that. And then, of course, when we select this one, we should update context. And what did we name it? Local, that one. Set it to false. So now we should be able to close it. So this one will show, this one will hide the gray overlay. But of course, the container also needs to be dependent on this one. Exactly. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong container. I need it to be in this one. So visible like that. That should do the job. Wonderful. Adding the form that will enable us to specify the different values on the property should be pretty quickly to create. So I will just mark my container here. And then I should be able to find the form, add the form. And then in here, we should be able to find our tables. So we have one here called property. That's the one we created. And I'll add this one into my app. And now it's loading. Okay, great. So now it has added this one. And I think over here, if you go to tables, you can see it has added our properties in here. It has sort of made a default layout, but it's quickly easy to switch. So I'll just go to like column 1. And then I will move the columns a bit. So for example, let's say the name, I will have that in the top. Address, zip code, state, zip code, state, city. I think that's fine. Number of units, property type, status reason. What did we have in status? Active, inactive. So that could be one to keep. It's actually not one I have. Oh, it's loading. You see here, status is not something we have in here. But we have it here, status reason also. That's sort of columns that are predefined in Dataverse. So we could use that sort of to say it's the property active or not. I think I'll just leave these ones out, but it's an option to keep in. Then I think here what we need is name, address, city, state, zip code, type, owner. We don't have the owner, so let's add that one. So we actually have 2 owner tables. That's a good question. Which one it is? Let's just try to have them both. Owner ID and owner. So this one is our field because that indicates it's custom made. So now we have the owner available. So now it complains about a error. And let's see what it is. It says, oh, we can't really see because it's locked, but it's in this one. It's unlocked property. So we can go into this one. Let's see what this is now. It's because it can't find someone. The intelligent thing of this local platform didn't know which one to specify, so I'll just help it to do it now. So now we have the owner, and you can see all of the different things we have in here. Okay, great. So that's actually that's actually our form, I would say. Maybe can we make it a bit larger? Like that. Now we have actually everything on the screen, and oh, what is happening? So the reason why this is happening is due to the form mode. So if we go back, we need to switch the form mode on this form. So if you go to this one and we go into the form mode, where do we have that one? It's default mode, form mode dot edit. So in this default mode, we currently have it to edit. So let's say, actually, we can just shift this one to new, and that will solve our problem. See? But we could also switch this one back to edit. And then we should actually be able to, on the select here, specify which form mode we should run in. So we could say new form and put in the form 1 as parameter. So this one will actually boot up a new form for us like that. So that's actually great. We can use this form to add new properties, and we can also utilize this form to edit properties. And I'll show you later how to use this edit thing. But now we actually have the form, so the thing we are missing is a save button. So let's create a simple button, and I think I will create it in here. Let's a button, and let's hit this one, and let's find an icon for save. Do we have that? Great, that one, and let's just icon only. And maybe outline, subtle, transparent, primary. Let's just have it as a green button, so to speak. We can optimize the design afterwards, but on this one we should submit form, and that should be form 1, like that. And after we have submitted the form, we should do the update context and hide our view here, I would say. Okay, great. And let's also reset our form, just to be sure that we don't have any values that will interfere later. So that's our primary goal for this form we have solved now. And let's just try to test it. So we have filled out our form, and now we'll try to click save. So what happened? So I think to optimize this app in the future, we can sort of make a notification based on if we did save successful or not. But let's, save that. That can be like optimizing in the future. So let's sort of look at the table here behind the scenes and see if there's any entries. Yeah, this is our entry. So that means our form is working correctly. So next up will be to build the gallery in here that can showcase the different properties we already have. The way I approach the overview is to insert a gallery. So I'll insert this vertical gallery, and I will just paste in or select this properties, which is my table containing the property. And I will paste it in here. And I'll just clean this up a bit. I don't want to use that. It's fine to have that one. I think I will decrease the size a bit. Move the whole thing a bit down. Like that. And then of course I need to remember to put my container in the front. So this one with the button up here. So I actually pasted in the gallery the wrong place. So that's sort of a common mistake. So I'll just cut this one out. And then I will find the correct container, and I will paste it in here. Paste like that. And then I will reorder this and bring to front. So our button is overlaying the gallery. Okay, great. Now it's like in the correct order, so everything is displaying correctly. And again, we have the container here and the gallery. I've moved it a bit down because then I can have my text or column names on top of the table. So before that, I will just make a very simple overview here. So in the beginning, we have the address. And this one, we have the city. Let's do the name instead. So Lakewood Community. I will switch this one around. Like that. Maybe even decrease the size a bit, like right around there. And these two, I think, should be similar. So in size, I would like to... We're having font size, there we have it, 13. Like that. So you can actually mark several things and then they would have the same size. Then I think we have something with the font weight. It should be similar here. Great. And where do we have these properties regarding Y position? That's where they are, 17. So like that. And so this one was the text property we're looking for. This is the name. And we have the street address here, I think, right? Didn't we? Where do we have the text? There. Yeah, that was the address. Maybe we make a bit more space for that. And what would we like to have? What would we like to have more? We would like to have type could be interesting as well. So I'll just copy one of these, and this is the type. So let's fix that. Property type, and that is fine like that. Apartment, and then we have number of units. So I just corrected the four of them to 17 in Y position. Now we'll just quickly insert the text labels that will indicate the column names. So be sure to mark your container and then insert the text label. And you can move it on top here. And I'll just align it here. And then we can write, for example, name. So I will just quickly fill out the rest of it by copy pasting this one. Okay, super cool. So now we have inserted the column headers and we have specified the different columns we would like to see. So let's just try to add one more to see that it's actually working, because the things you are configuring here will, on this tab, it's called in the gallery, that will affect how the other columns, or sorry, records in the gallery looks like. So let's add one more. And let's create this one. There you go. So we have Lakewood Community and Hillside. Two different types. Another idea for future improvements could be to add some sort of a filter to our gallery. An idea could be that we would like to filter on type, and that could be very helpful if we have a lot of different properties. So we can filter out what we need to look for. But that might be in the future that could be a live session where I try to build this thing. Anyways, now we can see that it's working for our properties. So now we actually have the two properties that has been created inside our table. That's really great. So what about if we would like to edit the properties? So to do that, I think I will insert a pin. Maybe I can find an icon for that. I think I will use the classic icon. So be sure that your tab here is selected and then paste in the edit icon so you can see here. That's really great. So this one is 50, 50, 50. Maybe we should make the same here. 50, 50, 50. And I think there is some padding here, right? That makes the difference. Yeah, 16, 16, 16. So let's just quickly add that one in. So now we have the edit button. So that displays like this, but it has no functionality. I'll move it a bit closer firstly to the other icon like that. And I don't think I wanted to select the parent, so to speak, because I think when I click on this one, I would like more of a view instead of an edit. I want this particular one to be the edit one and not if I click here. So I would like to implement the logic here and say, let's see what kind of logic we have on the parent. So when we look at the unselect, there's no logic, but in here we would like to say, what we would like to say, we would actually like to update context. We would like to show our model we had created before, so we'd like to show the creation model. Now it's maybe a bit misleading that we call it creation, but nevertheless we use that also for edit form. Okay, so now it opens this one, but there is no values here. So how do we do that? So I think what we can do is actually say default mode here, say data sources property, and then we can say item. And that one should be the selected from our gallery. So that's the gallery 2. That's the one we had before. Make sure not to choose gallery 1 or whatever you've called it on the front page, but choose gallery 2, which is our gallery with the properties. So now you can see we have actually chosen this one, and we can see the different things regarding this one. So I wonder if it works if we change something. So let's change our unit to 4 on this one and hit save. It's loading. Now it changed. And what about this one? So now we select this one and we change this one to 2. It's loading, loading, loading. So maybe we should add a gray overlay also at some point over here to make sure that we can't do anything before it's done. So as you can see, right now we can actually create new items with the same form down here, and we can edit item as well. So that's really great. That's sort of what we would like to achieve with this table. And of course, in the future, we could add filters. And I think we also kind of in the future need to add sort of a view model where we can see the property combined with the units inside. So when we have created firstly the tenants page where we can create tenants and we can create units. So that will be the thing we're missing here in the navigation, but also a page for units. Then we can actually combine all of this into a view for the properties. So this view will give us the ability to see the property, the different units that inside, and the tenants for the specific units. So that's for the future. But next up, let's try to create the tenant page. First, I will duplicate my properties screen because it's basically the same thing we would like to achieve with the tenant screen. So much of the same logic we will need. So click on these three dots and then duplicate the screen. Super. And if we select this one, we should basically see the same thing as we did before and the same form. So that's perfect. So first, let's rename this one to another name, tenants. Now it's reflected on the page header. And then let's update our menu here on the left side. So we will navigate to the correct screen. And we need to go to the app and then choose the formula and find our tenants record. And then add in our screen name here, tenants. Wonderful. So the screen name has been added here, and that should make our navigation work. Beautiful. Next up is to configure our form. So currently, if I go to this one, if I select the screen and I press play, I can't really select this one right now. So let's figure out why we can't select this one. The reason why I can't select this one is that if we look on this side, our gallery is on top of our container containing our add icon, and basically our our gallery is above this one. That's why it's unclickable. So we should try to move this container, reorder it, and bring to front. And that should enable us to press this one. Exactly. So sometimes when we duplicate the things, it just do some random stuff that we probably need to change. So that's one of the things here. It did work on the other screen. All right, so here we have the form and it points to the property table. So first off, let's just change this one. Add new tenant. And then select our form and let's clean up the form. So I will just delete all the data cards from the form. Now we have the empty form and I will just save my app because sometimes when I've done this duplication and then tries to change the data source, as I will do now on this form, it freezes up. So good thing, remove this data field, save it, and then we can continue. And next up is actually to change our data source. So first and foremost, you need to add this tenants table in here. So go to data and then add your tenant table. I have already added it, so it's visible for me. When you have done that, you need to go to your form here and then change the data source. So I'll switch it to the tenant. Alrighty, so now we have 10 fields selected. And let's see here. We don't need the record created on. We don't need status reasons. You could argue that we need the status, but we don't really roll with active and not active here. But you could implement that, and that will keep track of which one of your tenants is currently active or not. I'll remove that. Time zone version number, don't need that. Import sequence number, don't need that. Date of birth, yeah, I think that's great. I don't think I particularly need to use the start and end or the time. So we could remove that, or we could just simply keep it as is. I think that's fine for now. Uh, and I think that should be it for the form. Let's just check the formulas here. So yeah, it's basically complaining about if we select something from the gallery 2.1. So that is the tenants gallery, but currently the tenants gallery here points to the property, and that conflicts with this form because we can't really select anything from the gallery 2 because that's another type of record than a tenant record. So we'll fix that in a moment. But for now, let's just try to add a new record. So Joe, and let's try to save. So let's check the database behind. The record was created in the tenant table, so you can see it here. So now it's just a matter of us configuring our gallery or table view or what we call it here to actually point to our tenant table instead. So here, let's just point to tenant 1. And let's try to fix the few things we have here. What is that? So property type, we don't actually need that. Maybe we should call this phone number. And I'll just quickly fix the column names. Cool. Column names is fixed, and I think this one should be changed to last name. Let's make it a bit smaller. All right, here we go. So that should enable us to click on this one, and John Johnson the third. Let's save that. And you see it's reflected and updated. Let's make one record more. So anyways, all of these information is just random information, so it's not connected to anyone specific. All right, beautiful. So it's actually working, and as you can see, that was pretty quick. Just to duplicate, delete some things, make sure the reorder is correct, and then switch out the data source. So that will be the same thing we have to do for the unit table. So let's update the left navigation to contain the unit page, and let's create a page for the units. So to create the unit, let's first update the navigation to contain an actual tab that can navigate us to a unit page. So go to the app, the formulas, and then copy one of these things. I placed it here as the fourth option. So we currently have like 2 maintenance. So let's switch that and call units. And I think we can make this a home as well. And let's expand this one a bit. That will actually be a thing we need to do on all of the screens. But now we have this one, and I think we actually also need to provide a screen. We're not able to do that yet because we haven't created the screen. So let's duplicate the tenant screen. It's now duplicated. And let's rename this one to units. Great. And then we can update the formula here. And let's go ahead and say screen. That should be units. Good. So now we can go to properties. This one, let's expand this one a bit. And we can go to, well, actually just make it all the way to the button. And we can go to dashboard. And let's increase the size. We can go to tenants. Let's increase the size of that one as well. We can go to units. And let's expand that one a bit more. Alrighty. So now this page is also ready. And are we able to click this one? We are able to click this one. But hey, what's wrong with this thing? There's something wrong with the order here. And as you can see, basically this container is now in the front for some reason, and that's what can happen sometimes when you duplicate things. So I need to find my container. This is called for_2, which contains my form, and I will reorder and bring to the front. So now we have it in the front, and then somewhere in this mess, our overlay is also hidden. So now we have moved, that was the rectangle. So now let's move the form to the front again. And now we are back to the correct layout. And again, when we're inside this a form, that will be for unit. And this form, let's remove all the different data card we have. So let's go to the properties, display, edit field, and let's just remove. So removing the data field this way is basically the same as removing them by deleting them over here. All right, now we are ready to add our data source. So on the left menu here, I'll add data, find the units table, add that one. Now that's a data source in our app, and let's go to data source. Select your form, select the data source, and then find the unit. Brilliant. All right, it has sort of tried to select the things we need to have in the first place. We will change that in a moment. The error here is the same as previously. Right now, when we are going to the edit mode, it tries to select a record which doesn't match with the type or data source we currently have in this form. We'll fix that in a moment, but first let's update our different fields on this form. So status reason and status, let's remove that. That doesn't correspond with our different values here. Then we have rent amount, square footage, unit number. So unit number, let's move that to the front. Rent amount, square footage, bathroom, floor, import sequence number. We don't need that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we are missing something. It's like bedroom and bathroom. So we don't have bedroom. Let's find that. That one was there. So the unit ID, that will be provided by the database itself. That's self-assigned. And then we need to do a lookup to the property. So we need to link each unit to a property. I think I'll put that first. So now we have all the different things we need in our form, I think. So let's connect that one to the Lakewood community, and let's make that 1001 for like first floor and first unit. And let's make this one 1,000 a month, square footage 120, bathrooms 2, floor. That's floor 1, as I said here, and then we have 4 bedrooms. Let's save that one. And let's check if it's actually saved in our database. So that will be in the unit table. Beautiful, it's saved here. Let's update our view to showcase our units instead. So I'll change the data source to unit. And I think the first thing we need to show here is actually unit. So that's the ID of our unit. I will change this one quickly. And next up, let's give this a bit more space. And this one a bit more space. And let's connect this one to property. And now it's a lookup, so we can actually choose what do we need to showcase here. So we'll do that by adding the dot, and then we can actually choose the different properties columns, so we can figure out we can get the values, so to speak, from this one. So I'll just get the name. And update this one as well. And let's include the square footage. So yeah, that was just a minor adjustment I did to correct it. So you can sort of follow the principle. You can add more text fields to contain the different values. Right now I just have these different things, and let's just quickly check if this one works with the edit one, or the edit mode as well. So I'll correct the render amount to 1200 and save that. So that will actually be a field I would like to have here as well. So let's quickly make this rent amount. All right, so it didn't really refresh the data source. So let's quickly just try to go in here, and I can see I made a spelling mistake, so let's correct that quickly. I'll go to this one and find my column here, edit column, and I will fix this one. It's called bedrooms. Shape that one. Let's go to the app. Go here and refresh the data source. So that has refreshed the data source. Let's see if it's reflected. It's already reflected in here. And let's add this one, render amount. So I just think that right now, because we are in development mode, it's just struggling a bit. All right, let's try again. I just restarted the the app. Sometimes it's just hanging, and yeah, you need to close it down and open again. As you see now, it works perfectly fine. So that's it for the unit table. Let's move on to the lease table. We will follow the same procedure to create the lease table as we have done with the units and tenants. So I will just duplicate the screen here and wait for it to complete. Alrighty, that's created. I will then rename this one to leases. I will then update the formulas on the app to contain this screen. so I can navigate it to it properly. That should do the job. And it works. Beautiful. Let's quickly check if the things are as they are supposed to do. So we have our container here on top. We have the rectangle behind this one here. So it should actually be the right setup, so to speak. It looks like. What do we need to change? We need to address the form first and foremost. So again, I will go in here to the container and I will just delete all of the property fields. All of the fields are now removed from the form. I will rename the header to be add new lease. Then I will select the form here and change the data source. And as you can see right now, we can't see the lease table, so we need to add that inside our application. Let's save this application first. Go to the data, add data, search for lease. It's already popped up here. Now the lease are added, so let's select our form here and go to the data source and select the lease. So it has pre-populated our fields for us, so we need to clean that one up a bit. So the name is actually the primary column of our lease table. We didn't actually include that in our data model here, but let's just keep it in here for the naming sake convention. So we can basically just add a name here. And I think the important part here is that we need to connect the unit and tenant so we can identify which unit this lease involve and which tenant. So let's see if we can find the fields. So we have the unit here. Let's add that one. And let's move that one to the top. Now we have the unit here. And let's add the tenant as well. And move the tenant to the top. Maybe actually all the way up here. So name, tenant, unit, monthly rate, security deposit, start date, end date. Then we have the lease status, status reason, and status. So let's remove these two. The lease status actually shows this number, which corresponds to our pending value. So for some reason, it actually displays that one right now, but I can choose other things. So if I go in here, it's actually changing. But let's see if it works. I think it's some sort of bug right now. It's pretty weird that it's defaulting to this one. Or it's not, it's weird that it showcases this one in the active values, because if I go to this one, you can see all the different things and we don't have the value there. Anyways, I think it will still work. So let's test it, so to speak. So let's try to add a lease. So I tried to save one, and let's see here in the lease table if we are able to see something here. We are here our first lease, so it actually works, and you can see the status here of the lease status is the correct value. So let's try to connect our gallery view here so we are able to see the entries. So this one doesn't work because we are not connected to the correct data source. So let's select our gallery here and change our data source to be leases. And let's identify the lease ID here. That will be the lease. And then we need the tenant. I think tenant dot name. And then we can have rent, monthly rent, I think, yeah. And lastly, we should have the lease status, I think. And I'll quickly change the column values up here to match the values we have here. All right, so I just changed the values up here to match the gallery. And let's check if this one is working. Let's save it firstly. I'll click the edit and I'll change the monthly rent to 1600 here, and let's save it. And again, I think there's a bit of a lag here because we are in edit mode, so sometimes that confuses it a bit, but let's just try to add one more here. Now we have 2 entries. And let's try to change this one, see if that one works. Oh, we're still kind of in the, the edit mode. But anyways, now we have this lease table. So I think that's pretty good and pretty exciting that we are so far with the application. So I think right now we just need the maintenance table. And I think after that, we can sort of look into a sort of nice view of our property, or yeah, our property, I think, where we sort of have the tenants inside and the units. So we have a good overview, and maybe also kind of if there's any maintenance requests, but let's see how far we get. And then also in the dashboard, maybe some nice graphs or simple graphs that will showcase the rent amount per month for current active units and open maintenance requests. I will try to pick up the pace a bit with the last table here. It's the maintenance table. It's again the same procedure, so let's just copy or duplicate the screen here. Let's rename the screen to be maintenance. Go to our app folder here and add our screen name so we can navigate to it. That should do the job. Beautiful. Let's try to connect our form here to our maintenance table. First, I will just rename this. Make this one a bit wider. And again, if I select the form here, I will first and foremost remove all the fields we currently have. I'll then need to switch the data source. The maintenance request table is currently not in the app, so I will go over to the left side and add data. And I've added the maintenance request. I'll just quickly hit save. I will then mark my form again, the new form here, and I will switch the data source here on the right side and point to the maintenance requests. Again, the AI has suggested a couple of fields. I will quickly clean up and add the ones we have selected in our data model. I've updated the fields to be these fields. You can sort of customize it to your needs. I've just added these 4 things. And I think I would also enhance the app if it was my app that I needed to use to be able to set the completion date based on when the maintenance stages shift to completed. But for now, we'll just keep that manual process. Very nice. Then we need to update our formula here, which points to the gallery. So we don't need to actually update the formula, but we need to update the gallery again. So point or find our gallery here. And this gallery, we need to change the data source to be the maintenance requests. I will change the different values here to point to the things we need. So this one could be the ID. This one could be the tenant name again. This one could be the title of the request, and this one could be the status, so to speak. Beautiful. So let's try to create a new request. So I'll go in here and I'll put some data in. Cool. So we have one entry here, so that means the form is working. I will just quickly clean up the column names. All right. Awesome. So now we actually have data in all our tables except the payment table. But now we actually pretty far in terms of what I would like to demonstrate to you that are possible with the Power Apps here. So I actually created some sort of a property management solution now. And I think the two last things I would like to show before we will stop this video, because it's already pretty long, will be to create some kind of a nice view on the property here. So when we select a property, that will pop up a nice overview of this property, what the units are inside, what the different tenants are on the units, and also maybe maintenance, open maintenance requests. And lastly, the dashboard page, I will try to create some simple graphs. So instead of building it on the fly, I will walk you through how to do it this time instead, because I've done a bit of pre-cooking from home, so it's already made the view I would like to show to you. So first thing first is that you need to be able to create a sort of new pop-up overlay. So to do that, you need to have a variable that can trigger the show and hide functionality. So for this, you need to mark your gallery and mark this tab. And then inside this one, you will create a update context and describe this variable and set it to true when we click on this one. This will then enable to show and hide this view. Secondly, you should copy the rectangle you have for the crate container and then paste it in and make sure it's almost on the top here. And on the visible property of this rectangle, you have to specify this new variable that you set. That will then enable the show and hide functionality. Secondly, you will need to insert a container on top of this rectangle. And I will now show you this container. So when we click on the gallery, it will pop up the container. And inside this container, we will have the different view things. So again, both the container and the rectangle, they will have this show view modal in its visible property or in their visible properties. Inside the container, I would like for you to first insert a gallery. So not this one. You should insert a form first and foremost. So this form is just a regular form as we have always worked with. And this form should then have as the item the gallery 2 selected, and the data source should be properties 1. When you insert the form and select this property 1, it will pre-populate the form, and you can just shift around the different columns as you like. And then I would like for you to switch the default mode to view. So normally it's edit, but it's shifted to view. Then we create this kind of view mode. Please insert some text, canvas, or a regular text box. And then beneath this one, I think we should create the view of the units that belongs to this property, and then the leases that belongs to the different units. So I've just inserted some text like headers here. And The tricky part here, I will not say the tricky, but the more difficult part is that we need to connect these things. So first insert a vertical gallery. So that will be this one. And when you've inserted this one, you should set the item to be gallery 2. So that is the gallery from outside the properties one before. So that's the property you select. And inside the gallery, I have just used some of the normal things that comes with the vertical gallery when you set it in. So I have just connected the unit number and then the unit number specific value. You say this item dot unit number in a text field. Render amount is just written, and then the render amount is this item dot render amount. And then this below here is the unit ID. So if I go to the text value here, that is this item.unit. Then you have the specific ID. This one is just a sample image. You can remove it or you can keep it. I have sort of prepared it for the future if I would like to add images to my units. It could also be for the property above. But basically, yeah, this is then the container of the units for this specific property. For this one, we only have one. And then we have the lease one. Let me just switch to another property so we can get a better view of the units and leases. One thing I should mention is that this rectangle I have on that visible property, of course, the show view modal, but then on the select one, I have this update context, meaning that if I click on this gray area outside here, it will close down the whole modal like that. And then I will select this one. As you can see, it updated the units and now it populated the lease tables as well for this property. So the last one over here is a bit more special. I've inserted a vertical gallery again and then utilize some of the normal things that come with the lease. I don't think necessarily we should have this image. The important part here is the items. In order to show the different leases for the particular units you have in this property, I set a filter on the lease table. So our items will firstly be from the lease table, and then we will filter out based on the unit column in the lease table, specifically the unit ID, and we would only like to see the units or the leases that has one of the unit IDs selected in the gallery 2. So by selecting a property, we will have a list of units for that property. And then what I'm doing here is that I'm just displaying only one column for that gallery2.selected.units. And that is the unit column, so the unit ID. So hereby I can compare the unit IDs that are selected to the unit ID column in the lease table. So that will basically filter out all the correct leases for the units we have in this property. What I have selected here is that this item.tenant.name. So we have the tenant name or the name of the tenant in this lease. We have the lease ID and we have the status of the lease here. So that is basically it for a combined view of data for a property. You can of course enhance it and make it much more complex and show different values depending on what your needs is. But this is just a simple showcase of what is possible. So the dashboard, I will try to walk you through what I have been creating here and how I've created it. So this is just a simple dashboard with different measurements. The first one is the open maintenance request. So to display this number, I'll use the countIf function on the maintenance request table. And the filter I'm doing here is that I would like to count the maintenance requests that are different from completed. So it has another status than completed. So this is the simple function to calculate that. So this will work as long as we don't have a lot of records. The rent collection rate, I'll try to explain that one. So basically here I'll do a filter on the lease table, and I will do a summarization on the monthly rent column. So I'll take out all of the active leases and do a summarization of how much we are getting, and then divide it by the sum of the rent amount in the units table. So this would be our potential income if we have rented out all our units, then times 100, and then I will round it off by 2 decimals. So all in all, this will give us the rent collection rate, and this is currently 37 because not all units are rented out, and we don't collect from them all. And secondly, I'll do a concatenation. So this one just puts the percentage sign after the number. Units. So this one is pretty simple. I've just inserted a text box as well as the other ones. And then I'll do a countIf on the unit table and just set it to true. So it basically counts all the record in the unit table. So I have 3 currently. So this graph is a bit more complex. Normally, I would say I will create such a dashboard in Power BI or something similar and embedded as a web page, so to speak. But I will just show you it's actually possible to do some calculation on Dataverse tables directly. So this one is a view of the payments over a different month. And the way I've created this is that first and foremost, I've created a payment table in our solution. And the payment table has a payment number column. It's not so important, but it's just an auto-calculate field. We don't use that specifically for the graph. Then I have a lookup to the lease agreement and then the tenant also, and then the payment amount I received, and then also a payment date. So these are date columns, number columns, and so forth. This column down here is a bit more special. Let me show it here. It's called payment month. So this is actually a calculated column or function column. So this one basically calculates the month based on the payment date we have provided. So it's just displaying a number for the specific month. So this one is a January, February, and so forth. So it's a pretty simple calculated column that's based on this one. Having this will enable us to create this graph, but before it's just plug and play, we have to do a bit of calculations in our app on Start. So in our app on Start, I have 3 formulas that will help us create this graph. So in order to bring down the amount of records we have, I will just summarize it to this year's payment and bring it into the app. The way I do that is I'll do a filter on the payment table where I specifically filter out the payment dates or the payments between the start of the year and then the end of the year. And then I'll show the payment column, so that's the ID, the amount, the payment date, and payment month. So now I will have a simple table of this year's payment, as you can see here, with 4 columns. Next up, I need to do a grouping of payments. So I will group the payments into each payment month. The way I do that is I'll use the group by function here on this year's payment, the one we created before. And I'll do the grouping on the payment month, and then create a column called grouped payments And I'll add a column called monthly payment. So you can see here we are grouped by these different things, and it's summarized by grouped payments and the amount table. So this one actually gives us the payments by month table that we can then utilize to show us the data in this graph below. The last thing I'll do is I'll translate each number. So the one is for January, so that's basically what I'm doing here, payments by month. I'll correct the payment months to January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and so forth. Having this on the onStart function will run it in the beginning of the app and make our data available to showcase. So the bar chart down here is basically a chart and a column chart. I've inserted that. And then on the column chart table here and the items property, I'm using my variables or collections I created in the beginning. Again, here I've inserted the table. I'll do a switch on the different properties and then do a sort. So in the end, we end up with a sorted table on the month column here that displays the different payments we have over the months. So that is the items. And let's look what we have created more. I've just filtered out some colors that I would like to use. Normally you have a lot more, but I'll just use these green colors. The grid style, I've chosen X only, so only on this area. And then you can sort of style it over here with different properties, gaps, and so forth. And I think that's pretty much it. One more important thing is that you can select your labels and the series in the advanced tab when you have marked your table here. So I've chosen for the label monthly payment or month, and then for the series the monthly payment. So that's it, guys. A simple property manager solution where you can create properties, units inside, and create tenants. And you have this nice overview of your property. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment or like the video, and please subscribe. Until next time, stay awesome and build awesome apps.